Um, as people slowly stream in, I wanted to tell you, um, reading your book was a little bit more, what's the word? You know how you read those books where you connect just that tiny little bit more deeply just because of the characters' names? So
Oh, right.
my 10-year-old son is named Henry. And
Oh, no.
so I've been using his bookmark in your book the whole time. Can I show you? He's very proud of
Yeah.
his bookmark. Let's have a look.
Oh, that's wow.
Yeah. So he made me this special
Oh,
bookmark.
wow.
And
Oh, that's amazing.
yeah, it says, hang on, I don't know whether you can read it. It says book and adventure, and there's little monkeys up in the trees, and
Oh,
this is my
that's
Henry.
my favorite thing. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a good boy. I might not read him this particular book for a few years yet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I
might.
hope it wasn't too, yeah, I hope it didn't add too much of an extra.
No, no, honestly, man, like I really we might even get into that, but I actually like books that push me a little bit emotionally. Like that's the thing I'm looking for. So,
Same here.
oh, good. Welcome to Ben's Book Club, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. As you can see in the chat, Mark, I don't know whether you have the chat up, but everyone always asks about, or sorry, says where they're from. I was just
Mhm.
distracted because Gemma was complimenting me on my loss of weight. I have lost weight. I did cut down on cheese. Yes, I cut down on a few different things. Going to Tasmania soon with my one of my sons for a big hike, so we've been training. But we talk about where we're from, and just sort of give Mark a bit of an insight as to how far-reaching his book is. So
Oh,
say
thank you.
hello. I just like to choose a few. Hi, Penny from Perth. It's the one capital city I've never been to. Perth. Have you ever been to Perth, Mark?
Yeah. Not enough time there, but yeah, I have been there a bit.
I heard it's really pretty.
Mm.
Um, hello from Coffs. Hello, Helen. Hello, Ian, Fiona, Gordana. There's so many people who are regulars here. Gemma, of course. Hello, Gemma. Hello, Kathy, Carol Hobson, my mum. Everyone say hi to my mum. She's always at everything I do. I do.
I love it.
Um, Lynn, we're doing the overland track, so the 6 days with our packs on, so it's pretty hectic. Hi, Paige from Brunswick. Yes. Carol Hobson, she's in the chat there. But without further ado, let's introduce our author because I'm really excited to talk to Mark tonight. So, Mark is a writer living Wurundjeri Country in the Yarra Ranges, although currently not even in our country, Mark.
No,
No.
no, currently in Joburg, so
Joburg,
hence,
yeah.
hence the coffee versus wine. So
Yeah, I've got my rum and coke. His debut noir thriller, The Hitwoman's Guide to Reducing Household Debt, which I think is probably one of the greatest titles in living memory. Won the 2020, this one too, by the way. I want to talk to you about your titles. It won the 2023 Affirm Press Mentorship Award. Before writing novels, he was a screenwriter, film reviewer, cocktail columnist, PR consultant and communications advisor in the suicide prevention sector. So a wide-ranging CV. Previously won the Text Prize, won a screen development grant from Screen Australia, and had screenplays optioned. And always my favorite part of an author's bio is the last couple of sentences about the family, because it's so Mark says he lives among the trees with his therapist superstar wife, hilarious son, and a moodle majestically named Mufasa. When not writing, he obsesses about movies and martial arts. We're here today to talk about another fabulously titled book, The Wolf Who Cried Boy, which again, can we talk, man, just to start, can we talk about your titles? How do you do it? Because I'm terrible. I'm so bad at titles. I can't do it. My agent named my
well,
last two books.
there's an all right story behind the first one, Hit Woman's Guide, of like basically I had like a working title which was Scratches in Lead, and it's this real noir hardboiled kind of
Yeah, that's
thing,
pretty good.
and yeah, people were sort of like, oh, it's not really hitting the mark, and then my agent named it of like Sinners Like Me because it was a line from the book, and then
Pretty
I
good
got this
too.
like, yeah, like it worked pretty well, pretty happy
Yeah.
with it. And then
Yeah.
my editor kind of tentatively emailed me saying like, we're looking at all these cover options. They're all a little bit BDSM-y. So she's like, maybe we should like change it up. We're not really covering the
That's not the
kind
vibe.
of
Yeah,
millennial.
that's funny.
Yeah, yeah. So I just came up with that. I wanted the slightly more like punny version I wanted was the Hitwoman's Guide to the Cost of Living Crisis, because it felt
That's
like
pretty
getting up,
good.
but they thought it was a bit too specific.
No, like, that's pretty good. That's pretty clever.
This one is a much simpler story, and I can say it's a fantastic title because I didn't come up with it.
Okay, yeah.
So basically, an editor came up with it. I was struggling a lot, honestly. Like the one that I liked the most was a massive mouthful. It was Some Wolves Eat Stars. So I thought that was kind of metaphoric, poetic, but
Yeah,
it just
I actually like that,
it's
but
a
I get
bit
what you
too.
mean. Out of the mouth, it doesn't quite flow, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Wolves, yeah, that the LV part is sort of the
Yeah, right.
yeah. That's
And I'm
pretty good
not good
though.
with marketing.
Yeah, well, I've had a few people as I've been reading it. I've had a few people comment on the title. They're like, "Oh, that sounds really like the title." I don't know. It does a lot. Just so to pick you everyone up as well, this is Ben's Book Club. Welcome. Sorry, I probably should have said that right from the jump. This is where we introduce authors monthly from around Australia, and we introduce everyone in Australia and across the world to these authors. An opportunity to meet with them and talk to them about their whole books. And actually, a point of difference in our book club is that the authors expect that everyone's actually read the book. So we actually get to talk about things that when you're just launching your book, you don't actually get to go into. So I don't know, it's kind of a cool opportunity to dive into some things that the authors are probably pretty excited about. One thing we do encourage people in the chat to actually type in some questions for our author. Now, we try to go through as many as we can, but the best question of the night, we always award a copy of the book. So we'll be sending, not this one, this is the advanced reading copy, but we will sending a final copy of the book to whoever Mark decides has asked the coolest question, can make him laugh, probably don't make him cry. I don't know whether he'll pick that. But you choose, Mark will choose the question. Okay. So hopefully you all have some cool questions locked and ready to chat to Mark. I wanted to start with this one though, mate, if this is okay. As a creative person, and I can tell just from your bio that you're a very creative person and you love stories especially. But I think in this book, there's a particular undercurrent of this idea of storytelling as survival. It's sort
Mm.
of where the stories are the things that shield you from, not shield you from reality, but make our lives understandable, I guess. And I just wanted to talk to you and unpack that idea a little bit. Is this how you actually see your purpose in telling stories? Like, what do you see? What drives you to be a storyteller like yourself?
Yeah, thank so a lot of it is just that drive that I'm sure you have of just like you see the world a certain way, you kind of maybe we want to make sense of it in a certain way, or that's
Mm.
the logic, and we just kind of like digging in or manipulating that idea of pushing the emotion, or kind of creating a situation where you can make people who are just reading a book feel things.
Yeah.
Um, there is that thing of like, I do think stories can save us. I fluctuate on this a lot because
Mm.
like there is that thing of like fiction is an empathy machine, and it's really powerful for making people feel things that they wouldn't and seeing worlds that they wouldn't. At the same time, like we have a lot of pretty shitty kind of authors like so who behaved quite badly. So I think the idea that it's this
Yep.
panacea sort of thing is a little bit naive. I still
Yeah.
love it. It does really affect me. With this story in particular, it's always that tricky thing of these are the things I was thinking. So I'm not saying this is necessarily on the page, but there's layers of story within story of like it can be helping us. It's using Henry's mum is using it to kind of help her and help him and save him and create this fiction. At the same time, it is a lie, and what is
Yeah.
okay with those sorts of lies? What are the white lies? Within that, there's also like, because it's a book that heavily features domestic abuse. Um, I think the stories we as society kind of tell ourselves about that subject matter
Mm.
are really kind of troublesome and
Yeah, yeah,
problematic. Of like a big one in particular is that I think a lot of the time politicians will very happily come out and say we need to fix all these deaths. You know, this is horrible sort of stuff,
yeah.
but they're kind of relying on the fact that we know that this is a complex issue that requires a lot of different kind of facets within society and stuff like that. So they can make these blanket statements and then not actually address the problems themselves.
That's a big
Which,
thing. Yeah, that's
yeah. And I
yeah,
also
and I
think.
guess sorry, you finish. You go ahead.
Oh no, no. Well, the other myth I think we tell ourselves a little bit is that this is an issue for um, poor people or marginalized people or something like that. That
Yeah.
we've kind of created this idea that um, it's kind of connected to stuff that maybe we have moralistic ideas about anyway. So we kind
Mm.
of we can no, I don't think we ignore the problem because people in the sector won't let them ignore it, but they do rely on those myths a little bit. So that's all kind of in this soup of stuff I was thinking about around kind of like
Yeah.
what's the good.
And do you see it as sort of I appreciate you saying that. Like I do feel like it's such a complex topic and sort
Mm,
of I guess, politicians are in the habit of simply pointing fingers at it's their fault. Let's just
mm,
fix that and then everything will be fine. But like you're saying, it's a real complex sort of problem. Do you feel like when you're writing a book like this, it's an effort in exploration of the problem in a complex way? Is that sort of what you're doing rather than perhaps providing answers for it?
Yeah, I definitely I'm of that school that like I don't think fiction should give answers. I think it should give more
Yeah.
elegant questions, that kind of thing. My big thing around the writing because like I'm a 20 years and 500 rejections kind of writer and a lot of manuscripts previously and the reason I think Hitwoman's Guide got published, or one of the reasons that I think I improved as a writer, was really digging into the honesty of it, of
Yeah.
like sort of not letting myself get away with
Mm.
faking things or like half-assing or thinking I'm going to get something past the reader. So when I
Yeah.
came up
Yep.
with this idea, I knew that it had domestic abuse as a central theme. I did glance, and one of the people asked a similar question of like whether I was concerned about writing about this as a man. And statistically, I'm much more likely to be a perpetrator. That is very much in my mind as I was
Mm.
writing than I am to be a victim. And so I wanted it to be real and true and honest, while never getting gratuitous or exploitative. Like, and I think
It's a
that was a
tough
tricky
line.
line.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and so I always tried to have Henry. I tried it whenever there was gendered violence of or men in having violence against women. I tried to make it a little bit peripheral, like
Yeah,
Henry's never
sure.
really looking at it face on, or we're seeing it in
Mm.
dialogue, like in the end, because I think we know enough of that stuff, and it's
Yeah.
often used for shock value.
Try not to
And
be
then
exploitative. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that's the big thing of like I also I wanted to I checked it with probably 8 or 9 kind of friends or friends of friends with either lived experience or sector experience or both.
Yeah. Yeah.
I tried to do a lot of reading as well. The big thing that was probably very sad to learn, but probably unremarkable to anyone here, is that all that research helped me with the psychology and the statistics, but I kind of already knew most of
Yeah.
the stuff because anyone who's been paying attention to the news, I think, sees these patterns happen
Mm.
again and again, and it's just maybe the digital aspect has added like a
Yeah.
new thing,
Yeah.
but other than that, it's pretty old story stuff. But
Yeah. Yeah. And I really appreciate you saying, Yeah, and you can sense that too. Like I've read a number of reviews of this book, which does feature some very heavy subject matter, but most of them almost unanimously say like it's handled very sensitively without shying away from it. And that particular balance, I think, is pretty difficult to nail. I guess it really speaks to your character too, man, that you labored over it as much as you did. Um,
Mm.
I had so my book, which is in the corner if I go like that, my third book, I had it's sort
Yeah,
of like an Australian Western, but
yeah,
I'd
yeah,
originally
yeah.
written this book where it featured like a marginalized character set back then. And originally that character was a woman, and she was sort of, the marginalized figure in that time. But I was shying away from that particular aspect of colonial Australia around Indigenous Australians.
Mm.
And I actually had to stop writing it for a while because it just wasn't working. And it wasn't until I sort of, I don't know whether I just got a sense of courage up or something, but I was like, I've got to write the scary thing. Like, I've got to actually do that, even though it's scary, even though it's sensitive, even though it's tough. I think the scary thing is where the honesty can come in sometimes. Do you feel like that? Do you feel like
Yeah.
tackling a scary subject sometimes forces us to be more raw or more honest with who we are? Is that how you felt when writing this?
Yeah, I think you kind of if you really do care about it, then you start to strip away it does maybe improve the writing to an extent though. Like it sort of
Mm.
you strip away some of the artifice and all the extra stuff that you're trying to do because you're
Yeah.
like, okay, I don't want to change what the reality of this is because I'm already walking a tricky line. Is that something similar you
Yeah,
feel?
yeah.
Like
You can't BS your way through it. Like
yes,
you gotta
yeah.
get it right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And you're
Yeah.
really careful about it. And you also ideally you're not like I was talking outside my lived experience, but I'm not very much talking outside people I know or stories I've heard firsthand and stuff like that. And I wasn't using their stories, but the emotions there and stuff like that, so that there is kind of a truth to it.
Yeah. Yep.
Lack of a better word. I think
Oh,
that's
no,
really
I
tricky
get
to
you. It's an emotional truth, and like you're also, as a creator, you're doing your best to sort of inhabit that space and to feel those truths as well.
yeah.
We've got some questions from the chat, which I'd love to get to. I thought Helen's comment here, OMG, the book made me cry. So I've heard that also a lot, that it's very, I was shocked, and we'll get into a few of the things, but there's a few moments I was like, whoa, he really did the thing. Um, Gemma's question here, I had one of a similar question. So Gemma's asked, how did you pick the narrator? He totally had me believing he was a child. The language, the expression and perception. Have you worked with children? And you were just sort of talking about that. But I in particular picked up, I loved how you wrote. There's this like I picked out one of these moments, but it happens a lot where he wrote in the narration, apple and a milk powder packet. And I
Mm.
instantly twigged on that and I was like, an apple. And I thought that's such a clever way for you to just textually tell us that this is a child. And I was really wondering about one, let's go to Gemma's question, choosing Henry, choosing that 6 year
Mm.
old, like that really young narrator, but then also
Mm.
two, the achievement of it on the page. Like how much did you pre-think those things out? Were you just sort of naturally going for them? That's those two questions, please, Mark, please.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, and thank you, Gemma. So the age kind of thing was very that was kind of like a calibration thing. That the original idea that I got for this was I just had I was actually sitting on a bed with my 9 month old kind of crawling around. And I got this image of like a boy sitting in a cave surrounded by these pagan kind of or Wiccan things like the hanging sage and stigma and like the things that we think of maybe to ward off evil, but I knew that evil was fake and that he was kind of being lied to keep him inside.
Mm.
And that flowed, the story flowed from there, the fairy tale aspect. And then the actual age was very much, I was talking to my mum about this a little bit of like, I needed a kid who would still believe this stuff, but was starting to question it, but could
Mm.
have a certain level of complexity, but not actual complexity of thought. So it was a real tricky kind of balance. And I think he's probably a bit precocious for his age, but I hope hopefully that works of the fact
Yeah.
that, you know, he's had his mum who's quite smart, who's sort of just been working with him one-on-one this whole time. And he has this big imagination. And then it was really kind of like just tweaking that back and forth. As far as all those little grammar things and stuff like that, that was part of that was I immediately thought of Room by Emma Donoghue, which I
Yeah.
loved that did a similar thing.
Mm.
Um, Getting how many of those to do was kind of a tricky thing as well. Of like even talking with the copy editors, they were
Yeah.
sort of like, oh, maybe you want to pull that one back, and I gave up some. They did want to take the and thing, and I was like, no, that's the one I'm tied to. That's and someone's also said escape. That was like a big thing, and
Yeah.
ending sentence in but like those were the crucial ones to me of like when you hear kids talk, because I also there's this aspect of Henry as both a very excitable, imaginative kid, but he's also got that little the trauma and stuff like that, and he's often like kind of like breathlessly speaking, and when
Yes.
you get a kid who's sort of like really excited and they've got something to tell you and they can't wait, that was the aspect I was probably trying to tap into a bit.
When you're writing that, are you writing excited? Like are you inhabiting the emotion of a little kid and you're trying your best to just match his energy? Is that the sort of thing?
Yeah, I sentence structure keys into it, and it is in drafts. Like
Yeah,
it's
okay.
probably a lot of run-on sentences when I'm doing the first draft, because I do very messy first drafts. I do a lot of editing. Um and so the first draft is very run-on, very kind of like splashy and messy and stuff like that. And so with
Hmm.
him, it was very much what's the emotion he's feeling at this moment, and how
Mm.
can I put that into the paragraph or the sentence at a sentence level, I suppose.
Yeah.
So and then tweaking that and going back and forth. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I appreciate that because that was it was one of the questions I actually had for you because I feel like that's something that you seem to really love with your two novels, which is this idea of like a really clear protagonist voice. You seem to be really
Mm.
clued into the way a character thinks. Is that something that's really attractive to you?
Yeah, yeah. So part of Henry's voice actually did change quite a bit because I because I had that past history of so many rejections, I wasn't like a put all my eggs in one basket kind of thing. So when I'd written Hitwoman's Guide, I immediately was working on the next thing, and so I actually had two-thirds of the draft probably done while I was doing when I got the contract for Hitwoman's Guide. So
Yes.
one of the things I loved about Hitwoman's Guide was because she's got like this sarcastic, sardonic kind of like way of looking at the world, and wordplay and stuff like that. Anytime anything was a bit boring, I could just have go into her head a bit more.
Mm.
And with Henry, it was so hard because I started out and it was just a bit bleaker, and I think it felt like it had the same voice, but none of the kind of wonder and humor.
Mm. Yeah.
I was two-thirds through and I was like, this is like hard for me to stay in this space. So how's it going to be for a reader to stay in this
Yeah, it's a good
space?
question. Yeah.
And so I immediately went, how am I going to make this fun? And so I kind of went back and flicked through a couple of other kind of childhood narrators, Curious Incident, The Dog in the
Dog
Night, and
Nighttime. Great. Yeah. I was wondering, I had a question about that book. Yep.
cool,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Extremely Incredibly Close and stuff, and they weren't quite right,
Did you
because
ever
of the
read Eye of
age.
the Sheep? Eye of the Sheep by Sophie
Yes,
Laguna?
although I only read that because my editor.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Your book
like I
reminded me
only
of
read
that.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read that about 3 months ago, actually.
So good.
Um, but yeah, so that I ended up going to. I've been friends for 20 odd years with Brooke Davis, who wrote Lost and Found. If you've ever read that book, it's
No, I haven't read that one.
astounding, beautiful, beautiful book, and it's
Yeah,
got like
okay.
a 7-year-old character in that. And the best way I can describe it is she's kind of always looking up with wonder, and
Yeah, I love
I
that.
was like, that's the bit I want, and then I could suddenly do like I had the idea of, he sees magic everywhere. He sees fairy tales. He sees superheroes. So everything can be hyperbole. Like he can talk in magic. He can
Yeah,
see
I love
like
that.
this wonder everywhere. And so that was a real unlocking kind of moment, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah. Just one quick question. We're going to get to a couple more questions from the chat, but you were talking about Room, and then because that's obviously a Academy Award winning performance from Brie
Yes.
Larson, and then in your bio, there's just so many film references, and I'm a lover
Yeah.
of film myself. Actually, sorry, see if I can show you. I've never done this. This might be awkward. Will I plug my
Oh.
system here? Oh, I have. Oh no. All right. I'm not, Mark, I'm not showing you. Sorry, my bad. Hello. I can't do
Send
it.
me a photo later.
I have a No Country for Old Men poster in my office to inspire me because that's my favorite, one of my favorite movies. But
Literally one of my favorite films as well,
yeah,
and one of
okay,
my favorite books.
we're best
Yes.
friends now. Hooray! So
Yeah.
I'm being real. But film, tell me about influence of film because you were just talking about you loved being internal with your
Mm.
narrators and their voice, and you're very, very internal to voice writer. But obviously, film is very third person. It's very the camera's following this person. You don't get to always hear that, well, not crutch, but I guess in film it can be with the voiceover, right? Sometimes,
Mm.
unless you're
Absolutely.
Goodfellas or Fight Club. So tell us,
Yeah.
what influence does film have on your writing and storytelling? And yeah,
Massively. So Hit Woman's Guide a bit more than this one. Like,
yeah,
there are references to a lot of Michael Mann, a lot of Scorsese, a lot of Coppola, like
we are
all
best
those
friends.
things. Yeah,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Coen brothers up the wazoo.
Yeah, thank
Um,
you. Thank you. Yeah,
And then with this one, it's more a propulsion thing of I think there's the thing I got because I was trying to screenwrite for a long time as well. I think one of the things you learn with that is really like trimming the fat kind of thing.
yeah,
And I kind of have almost put the fat back in with that voiceover of like
yeah.
there's to explore and fun and stuff.
Have
But
play, yeah,
there's like three questions that you ask with screenwriting that really I've tried to apply to this of like in every single sequence, chapter, anything like that. What does the character want? What's standing in their way, and what are they willing to do to get past it?
yeah.
And so you
Intention and obstacle.
all yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah,
and so like I try and not let that stuff strip out the kind of fun and the play and the
yeah,
everything like that. I think having that locked into your mind after you've worked on that, it does make it. The other thing I realized that I realized on again Hitwoman's Guide was people talk about writing cinematically, and I do understand that. I think I actually think in shots a little bit. Like
I
I
do. I
really
definitely do, man. 100%.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And so like you start with establishing and then you go in mid and then you go
yeah.
in close and
And
like it's in the
you've got definitely got some set pieces in here too, right? Like you've
yes.
got a few
Yeah.
moments where you're like, I'm just going to spend it. This is the set piece. I've got my characters, and now we'll go. And yeah,
Absolutely.
I really respond to that because that's the way I think about things too. But
Yeah.
I've always tried my best to, and this is something in my writing that I work on a fair bit, but I've always worked on trying to not use any sort of internality as I possibly can and try to tell things through actions more filmically.
Yeah.
But you can't, I don't know, you're right, like books you kind of can play. Like there's a bit more play available, right? Whereas a screenplay sort of has to be lean and mean a little bit.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Let's go to a couple of questions because we've got a lot of comments. I don't know whether you can have a look, mate, at the chat.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, sorry, Gemma. Gemma says, I'm scared. We're already in 24 minutes. There's not enough time to ask all our questions. Sorry, I've taken up too much time. It's my bad. Um, so Catherine mentions this. There was some really violent scenes, particularly in the park where the Wolfman killed the lady. I'm sorry, mate, I've forgotten the name of the character. Um,
Yep.
but then that reminded her of the book Curious Incident, where he sort of had to hide under bridges, and sort of there's a lot of things that go on into that book as well. Obviously, even the start of that book with the pitchforked dog and how violent that is. So,
Mm.
can you talk to us maybe about the juxtaposition of the point of view of Henry witnessing these things, but almost not having, it's almost like that, sorry to use Jaws as a film reference, but it's almost like that thing of like, don't show the shark and it's scarier.
Yes. Yeah.
Is that sort of
Yeah.
where you came at with that? And then the juxtaposition of the young, yeah, can you just talk about that and what that lent your
Yeah.
book, I guess?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's part of it's that balance again of the honesty but not gratuitous kind of aspect that I was
Yeah,
sort
yeah.
of trying to weave through of like uh we need to believe this guy is uh gets around in the world and that he's never judged and he's seen as respectable, he's seen as polite, and it is that thing that Lexi says that he's polite and has authority and all those sorts of things that we kind of let go. The showing that the violence was something that I was conscious of. Shock shock is a terrible word to use, but like I wanted it to be that real thing of like constantly making people aware that this has real consequences. And
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
there is, I tried to these characters are as real and human as as I possibly could make them, but they are also stand-ins a little bit for or allegories for sort of bigger parts of society. There is the aspect of the fact that men are victims of this too, not to the same extent, very clearly. Uh, but this idea that like patriarchy and domestic abuse is something that we should all be hoping to fix because it is affecting us all. And
Yeah.
with Cassie in particular, it's a complexity of sort of she's trying to save Henry. She's trying to kind of
Mm.
explore it. She's trying to expose his father a little bit to an extent. There's also a big thing that I was really fascinated with was the ideas of heroism and bravery, because we've got this idea of superheroes. We kind of have this thing in society, I think, of like a very masculine idea of bravery.
Mm. Hmm.
So it's you jump up and punch the bad guy and everything's fine. And the example like I think of a lot is like we talk about things like racism, and we often go to this idea of like being the one who's brave enough to yell down the person who's saying a slur on the bus. And like that's wonderful, but like that doesn't help anything. At the end of the day,
Mm.
that hasn't changed, that hasn't moved the needle at all. And the people who are actually fixing issues like domestic abuse, like racism, it's taking constant concerted effort. You're going against bureaucracy. You're probably moving the needle a tiny, tiny bit. And at the end, you're not getting a pat on the back. No one's
Yeah.
cheering you.
Yeah.
And also, realistically, most of that work is being done overwhelmingly by women, and it's this reframing of bravery that Henry is looking for superheroes. He's also looking for a father figure in some way, and I wanted to think about this idea of like when he's looking around, who is the hero he can rely on, and
Yeah.
Cassie does something that is both that standing up aggressively,
Yeah.
but also is not passive is the wrong word, but it's not punching him out. Like,
Yeah.
and that was what I was fascinated by, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a very complex guy, man. Like you think you like I can see the way you think when you layer a scene. It's not just one thing. It's multiple angles and multiple sort of motivations for characters, right? Um,
Well, I think just quick, I think
yeah,
that's a
good.
big difference of my last couple of books of like you imagine all that like thought with none of the skill to make it into a story. Just banging on a soapbox kind of thing. So that it's gotten better, I hope.
Yeah, okay. It's good you found it, man. I like it. Um, Now, this is Ben's book club, so we are expecting that everyone's read the book. We are going to dive into some spoilers. So if you haven't quite finished the book, I would say probably stop listening to us at the moment and go and read it because it is really worth reading the book. But I wanted to talk about this now because you sort of just brought her up. That whole scene with, sorry, you said her name was Cassie. Sorry, I've forgotten the name of the character, but where Cassie is horribly murdered by, the Wolf King, Henry's father. That whole scene, and this is, I mean, there's a part of it. I mean, talking about the complexity, and there's a part of it that's almost relieving only in the way that, oh, he is actually awful. He is a bad person. Because the lead up to that, there's that whole moment where and I mean, people in the chat, can you please tell me if I'm wrong on this? But when he was essentially, to use the word gaslighting, you gaslit us through him.
Mm.
You did the thing that he's doing to his wife and all the people and the police and everyone surrounding him. You did it to us through Henry
Yeah.
because you sort of
Yeah.
go, I'm pretty sure he's horrible, right? And I believe mum, but man, he kind of, and I hated that you did that, but I also really respected it because it made me go, oh, like it's so insidious and manipulative. Can you talk about the crafting of that scene? Because I just think you absolutely smashed it. And it did make me, it's one of those books that makes you see the world a little differently. You know what I mean? So can you talk about the crafting of that, man, please?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that scene, like, and the when I'm talking about that scene, the meeting with the Wolf King on the cliff and Nara kind of thing, that is his dialogue is the bit I worked and worked and worked probably more than
Really?
anything. Yeah, because I did want exactly that thing because I wanted to do not just that I'm gaslighting the reader, but the reader is actually gaslighting Lexi because
Oh,
the thing is
you made us
that like
complicit.
yeah, that's
You
what because I
did.
love that
Yeah.
focus completely. Because the thing
Yeah.
is, at the end of the day, we're completely fooled by what? He spoke nicely and he's an authority figure. We already
Yeah.
have
The
multiple
uniform.
other people who have said that this was true, and we have like kind of enough
Yeah.
proof.
Yes.
Like we completely rely on it purely because of he's a police officer. There is another aspect of in the research that I looked at police officers are 7 times more likely to be offenders than people in the general population.
Wow.
It's
Okay.
like the stats on it are pretty horrible. Uh, the other aspect, sorry, I just briefly lost my train of thought, but like it's that it is that kind of idea of yeah, I wanted to kind of mess with people. Oh, that was the other aspect, the mental health aspect of like I
Yeah.
worked in mental health for a long time, and
Yeah.
like Cassie says, people with kind of complex mental health conditions um typically are much more likely to hurt themselves than anyone else. But we have this fear, and it's part of that thing of like who gets to be afraid and who gets to be kind of a source of fear. And
Mm.
even though she doesn't have a mental health condition, if she did, that wouldn't excuse a lot of this
No.
stuff.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly. Yeah.
that was kind of what I was toying with. And I was saying for everyone listening, I was saying to Ben just before this that that's something that I've wanted to dig into with people, but obviously you have to wait until they've read it. But
Read the book.
um yeah,
So
because I think that's something.
have a look at
Sorry, you go.
no, have a look at I don't know whether you can see the chat on your screen there, mate, but have a read.
Yeah.
So everyone was, you did, it worked. Like every person in here is saying,
Amazing.
I was questioning. I'm glad it wasn't just me. So thank you guys for helping better. Can you also in the chat, can you write? Because this is for me when I come to this book. This is for me. That was one of the particular things that I loved about this book, that it made me uncomfortable with this subject and the manipulative aspect of it. So is that something that you guys actually enjoyed in the book? And enjoy is maybe the wrong part of it, but it's almost like it enriched that part of the book well, the book itself, but that part in particular was like it enriched my understanding and empathy, I think, for something so complex. So, can you guys just
So
let us know if that's the same sort of way you took it? Because I can see some people reading that, and I can see some people even reading this book and sort of just going, it was too much. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
yeah, so it was, yeah, I'm sure you've probably had, I don't know whether you've had any feedback like that where someone's just like, I couldn't finish it, it's etc. Yeah, sorry, Elisha, it was an enjoyable, yucky feeling. Yeah, it was right. Couldn't put it down. Yeah, so I think that particular aspect of this um, really made me sit up and take notice of this book. Can we also talk, if you don't mind, can we also talk about the ending as well? Randy, I'll
Mm.
please ask that question again at the end of our chat with Mark, because I will answer that one. But Mark, can you talk to us about the ending? And again, it's one of your brilliant set pieces, right? You've got the home, and we're finally meeting the Wolf King stripped bare without any
Mm.
of the social niceties, without anything on, he's fully realized. And then the fire and the way Henry escapes and videos and the layering then of the oh man, because then the whole thing ends. But I saw the book and I was like, I still have this left or something. I was like, what's he
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
to me? Like that was the ending. And then you really authentically have the video show up late. Like can you talk to me about crafting the ending, man? Because I just thought it was really well done.
Thank you. And again, that's something I really kind of prioritize, and it is maybe the screen aspect. Like
Mm,
I can't help but plot things because screenwriting is so based on structure, but I try and take that away as much as possible and let the characters kind of drive it.
yeah,
That's a real help to my writing. But for me, like endings need to kind of work on like on a character level, on a plot level, and on a like a philosophical level. And
yeah,
so the big thing for me is that like it can't be that bravery thing of like you can't just kill him and it's done, because that's not that doesn't it fixes their immediate problem, but like we know the way the world works, which is that these people then become like, oh, he was such a nice man. I had
yeah, yeah,
that's if they do acknowledge that he's done this terrible thing. In this instance, it's the lionizing of him, of like he was a hero, and you know, then we need, because that was the thing of like, if I'm going to have a police officer at the center, and she's had all this problem with the courts and all these sorts of things that are issues in real times. I couldn't then have that she's saved by the courts. Like it had
mm,
to be because the other philosophical thing, and again, this might not be on the page, but um uh when we see all these institutions fail and stuff like that, for me, the solution tends to be community care. Like it's a
mm,
bunch of people getting together and working together and protecting each other. And so it can't be the courts that fix it, because that's the institution. It becomes the community care of, in this case, the internet, of like
yeah, yeah.
the people who
Interesting.
aren't going to shut up. Like, and they're not going to be, the bureaucracy can't overcome them and can't squash it down. Um,
Yeah.
and it was this tricky thing of I just wanted that all to work. So I can't remember when that kind of came to me, but that was very important that I knew that needed to be there. And also to see a little bit of the Wolf King's parenting, of like the
Yeah, that was.
psychological
I thought when
and
you
stuff.
peeled that back was so interesting too about yeah. Oh, it's just there's again, it felt very real. That's the thing I liked is too. It's not the credits roll at the end of Twister and tornadoes are solved. Hooray! Like you really yeah, I really appreciated that. So,
Glad.
Monique, sorry, I saw you had a question regarding the ending. I scrolled back, but I couldn't find it. Would you mind please retyping your question, Monique? Because I just couldn't see it. I'm sorry. That's my bad. We're amazingly somehow coming up at the end of our time. Monique, I'll give you a second to type your question there. I do want to talk though, if that's okay, Mark, about Uncle Justin.
Yep.
So that was the turning point in the book for me. where I went, what the heck? Like I didn't see it. Like, and normally I'm pretty good at sort of not predicting, but like, oh yeah, sort of we'll go here and we'll do this. But I did not expect that scene to escalate to that point, and it kept on escalating. I'm like, Justin, shut up. What are you doing? Justin. And you pushed it, and then you actually did this horrible moment where Uncle Justin, this character, out of so few you've introduced us to, he's already gone. And I was like, oh, and I felt so bad. But can you talk to us about maybe the decision of, was he always dying in that particular spot in the book? Was he always, it was almost like a, again, to use the film term, it's almost like that inciting incident or the end of Act One. Like is that the point of that scene? Was he always going to die there?
Yeah, it's a combination of things. Of like, l- uh, Lexi and Henry need to be alone for like on a craft level for me. It's also like to show the actual stakes, all that sort of stuff. There was also like it needed to show that um, uh, characters of authority, like the police here, aren't necessarily the good guys. At the same time, I don't think Justin is necessarily a good guy. And that murky morality kind of thing in there of like,
Mm,
what does violence mean? Who does it hurt? And also just Henry needing to push off like his superhero thing and really expose that of like
mm.
when things are starting to sort of go wrong. And yeah, it was I think because a few people have said that same sort of surprise thing. I think um the thing that I've learned maybe from my last two books of having those surprise deaths is if you really make the character well-rounded, it's much harder to spot. Like, because a lot of the time as writers, we sort of like, oh, I'll just make this character slightly interesting, so you slightly miss them.
Yeah. It's a red
So we
shirt
kind
thing from
of,
Star Trek, right?
yes, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, you did.
Um,
You tricked me. You tricked me. You knew exactly what I was falling for. I'm like, ah, no, he's got this. He's earned this character's spot in this book. I want this character here. Yeah, you sneak. I see what you did. Um, well, it worked, man, because it was shocking and it did set me up. I see you can. I can see you reading the chat. Are you reading Monique's question?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that last sentence is from me, I suppose, of like there she goes is just literally that idea of kind of linking back to the stars of the shooting star of
Yeah.
imagining that's grandmother. I'm not sure if that answers your question, Monique, but the different part of the rest of the book was more um, I knew I'd put people through it and like I'd been through it as I was writing sort of thing. So it was more like meant to be a complete capstone of like, and it kind of links back to the very beginning of sort of like them looking up at the stars kind of thing. And I've ideally given a bit of relief. I don't know if I can speak to that, but like
No,
that,
I like it.
yeah.
Sorry, and I'm sorry if this is a question that I should know the answer to. Tom Conroy.
That's the audiobook narrator. So he's
Okay. Narrator Tom
I've looked up
Conroy.
yes, yeah. I've looked up
Cool. Sorry, I
his
understand now.
yeah, he's great. He's fantastic. Yeah. Um I did notice like I don't write a lot of dialogue tags. Like so on the
Yeah,
page
yeah,
ideally it works and everything like that. But I noticed when he did the audiobook, he added a bunch of accents to try
yeah.
and make that a bit clearer.
Well, audio is a different medium. I was really worried that there was a part because I've got the book correct copy, author copy.
Oh, no,
So
no, no, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't have a few things. I was like, did I miss? Was there a whole extra thing he did? Like I was nervous. I missed a coda or something. There's a few people who read listened to the audiobook. Tom did amazing. Tom's brilliant. Yeah, it is a different medium. It is strange to hear your words read out by someone accomplished who can really act and do a good job of it. Hey,
Yeah.
um,
I, did-
yeah,
I just
yeah, go ahead.
I was just a couple of quickfire ones that I saw
Yeah,
earlier. There was one asking if Auntie Noni was originally going to be First Nations. So my wife was born in Zimbabwe, and I have family in sort of South Africa and Zimbabwe and stuff like that. So Noni is South African, black South African character. That's more about in my two books. I see very little representation for the kind of African Australians I know, which I do know quite a few, and we have this very small like dissection of them. So it's more, I don't feel confident to write a story from that character's perspective, but it's more just adding them in. So she was always going to be
Yeah,
black South
cool.
African.
Appreciate
The
that.
other one was around autism and ADHD for
Yep.
Henry. So my wife again is autistic and ADHD. My son is autistic and ADHD, and my wife is qualified to diagnose, and she said that I am absolutely ADHD, and that I could
Okay.
probably get an autism diagnosis. So I didn't intentionally put that stuff in there, but I have no doubt that it sort of just naturally is an element or creeps
That's
in.
interesting. That's very interesting. We'll sort of end up finishing up pretty soon, guys. So if you've got any last minute questions just before the deadline, just send them through now. I was going to read this one from JP. So JP has written, it was so heartbreaking and yet such a good book. I have a 6-year-old boy and I couldn't help but thinking of him the entire time and his little face as Henry. Oh, it's actually making me sad, man. His voice felt really right. And I wanted to ask you, mate, like about the impact your family has on your writing. And I
Mm.
guess maybe also, like, I'm sure, actually, you know what, man? I'm just going to leave that question there and you can answer that question. But yeah, tell us about your
Yeah.
family, man, and tell us about the way they impact the type of books that you do.
Well, like honestly, I talk about level of craft improving as to why I got published and everything like that. It's also there's a very clear argument that nothing had happened to me beforehand. So I like Hitwoman's Guide is very much a book about parenting. Like without giving away the story of that, there's a real core kind of aspect of just that terror you get when first child is born of like um, having to immediately keep them alive, but also just watching, thinking of the years and decades kind of going out of all the opportunities you have to stuff them up, basically.
Mm.
And The Wolf Who Cried Boy is very much like it's me thinking of sort of like broader societal sort of stuff of just like stuff that makes me very sad and very angry and wanting to put it in there. But obviously, like I said, that original idea um came from watching my son crawl around. But it's also like thinking of on an extremely personal level of like what example am I setting, and like what is he seeing for heroes, and like what can we be for him, and what can we do to
Mm.
help basically. And it's all very lofty sort of stuff, but it's very deep. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like that, man. Yeah, and I guess that's where too, you're really fighting to do stuff that feels like real and brave, and you gotta talk about the scary things sometimes. And I think that when you have a family, they sort of you're yeah, like you're saying, not to be too cheesy, but you are your kid's hero, right? So, they'll model what they do on you. So you doing those
Yeah.
brave things will help them have hard conversations maybe up in their futures, right? That's what we want.
Yeah.
Um, so there's a lot of good stuff coming through in the chat, but we'll sort of start finishing up now, guys. So, a couple of quick ones. I loved what Susan said here. I get a hope of community from this book, which I thought was really cool. Just personally for me, like we do 1 month, one book a month. I've really enjoyed every book this year. I think this one has been, and you guys will tell Mark pretty quickly if I'm lying here. This one has been my favorite of the year so far,
Oh,
right? I don't know how many of you guys mirror that, but that's mine. Yeah, Gemma, thank you, Gemma. Yeah. So,
that's amazing.
well, we've read some good ones, man. So you're in good company, but I just really thought this was a wonderful book. Um, I do think it's a book that's worth um, buying and lending to people, and not in a sort of like here's a book that'll talk about this hard topic, but I just think it's very moving in a way on a it helps us get inside. You were talking earlier about just how the solution is tricky and murky,
Mm.
right? And there's so
Mm.
many different levels of society that sort of have to be affected. But just simply making one or two people feel empathy for this situation, I think is the
Mm.
best place to start. I think that's what this book does. So really think that it's worth getting a copy of this book and putting it underneath some people's Christmas trees. You know, Christmas is coming up. Um, yeah, Mel, I agree with you. I've really enjoyed our chat tonight about the book. Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, everyone's saying really loved it. So, one question was up here. Sorry, where was it? What's the next book? Oh, from Monique again. What's the next book? We want to know what you're up to next, mate.
Well, I've had a little bit of a stutter start because I wrote the book that kind of got me from screenplays to writing novels is like this big sci-fi fantasy splashy young adult thing. And I was reworking on that, and I'd pitched this crime trilogy idea to my editor ages ago, and literally every time I talked to her about anything, she was like, "So what's happening with that?" And I said, "No, I'm writing this other one for." And I just had this realization of like, it's freaking hard to get a book published. And like, if my
It
editor
is.
is keen on a book that I'm really excited about, like, why not write that? So I'm sort of about halfway through the draft on that, and I'm on the first one because it's got this I don't want to spoil the kind of hook or the high concept of it, but it is a high concept kind of one, and partly because I don't know if I can pull it off, but
Ooh,
it's
okay.
so far.
Okay. Sounds cool. Sounds like I'm really interested. Um, Thanks, Robin. That actually means a lot. So Robin's just said, thanks, a great discussion of a difficult topic. I actually think the book itself is that as well in spades. So, Mark, thank you so much. While you have a quick look, brilliant to hear more in the pipes. I love that phrase, buddy. Um, while you have a quick look, mate, just go back through the chat, see if there's any questions that really strike your fancy. We'll give out a copy of the book. Just to let you guys know, our final book of the year we'll be reading is this one by Chris Hammer, one of our favorite guests, Christmas with
Mm.
Chris. We do this every year in December. So Legacy is going to be our December club book. Please be aware because I think I mentioned it at the start. I'm doing the Overland track in December. Unfortunately, the last Ben's Book Club is on, I think it's the 23rd, so it's like right before Christmas. But I'm saying, let's get some eggnog. Let's sit in our Christmas pajamas. I'll wear my Christmas pajamas. I've got a Yippee-ki-yay shirt. We'll wear that. And it's a lovely way to spend Christmas Eve together. So make sure you get on with that. I'll put everything on the Ben's Book Club Facebook group afterwards. Um, but yeah, I want to just thank Mark for being here. Mark, have you got a question?
Well, I was tempted to pick the one asking you if you'd cut down on the cheese, but it turned out it turned out the same person, I think it's the same Gemma, asked about how did you pick the narrator, and that's something I
Uh,
love talking about. Gemma,
Gemma, one of our favorites. There you go, Gemma. Well, congratulations. Gemma, is that more than one for you? How many is that? Is that like three you've won with best question? I'm being for real. She's really close.
okay.
Second, yeah. Hey, more. Hey, if you got the best
Hey.
question, yeah. I know Helen. She does. She absolutely does. Going for the trig. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I thought you were using some fancy Spanish word there that I didn't know. Trifecta. Cool. Yeah. Congrats, Gemma. Can you please email me? Can you email me afterwards? Just so I have your most relevant up to date address, and we'll get that book out to you. But Mark, man, it's been a pleasure. I've really enjoyed our chat. I legitimately want to be best friends with you. So if you move to Queensland,
I'm free.
we'll
I'm
hang out,
free.
right? Yeah. And have the best time in
I,
Joburg, man.
yeah, yeah, thank you. And it's been such a wonderful chat from mine as well. And thank you to everyone for your wonderful questions and for
Yeah.
reading the book, really.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. I'm really excited. Oh, Randy, I just really quickly wanted to touch on Randy. So sorry, Mark, just to keep you just a second. Thank you for wishing me luck on the Overland track to Kathy. Yes, I'm very nervous about it. My 13-year-old son and I are doing it, and it's a 6-day hike
Oh,
with a pack on. Yeah, it's a bit of a rite of passage sort of thing for him.
I
So,
love it.
yeah, we just did 240 lunges with a pack on just before I came in. Anyway, been training all year. It's been good. Um, I wanted to say, Randy, so the plan for Ben's Book Club after Christmas with Chris in December, Ben's Book Club is actually taking a break through January so that we won't actually have a January book, but then we're going to be back for February. What that book is at the moment is still being finalized with the author and etc. So we're still, because Christmas is kind of one of those hectic times, we're still locking it in. But as soon as we have a locked in schedule, we will update the Facebook group with the schedule. So please keep an eye on the Ben's Book Club Facebook group and make sure that you're up to date with that. Our son did not want a penknife for not complaining. I've actually, Katrina, I've actually bought my son a present. He's next door. I can't talk about it, but like, I won't. I'll tell you about it when I get back. Okay, but it's going to be really fun. Anyway, Mark, sorry to keep you, man. Appreciate you.
I love it.
Hope you have the best rest of your day. If you guys want to stay in touch, please go to the Ben's Book Club Facebook group, and I'll post all links and stuff there. But yeah, we'll see you guys in December. And thank you, Mark. Enjoy your day.
Thank you so much, everyone. See you
All right.
later.
See you guys. Bye.